Hello, everybody. I'm Carol, and I'm a mommy, and I'm a teacher, and I'm a wife, and I'm also a recovering drug addict and an alcoholic. I'm also a Christian, and I have a pretty powerful story to tell. It's pretty hard to say, it's pretty hard to hear sometimes too, but I have to tell it. Somebody said to me recently, why do you tell this about yourself? Why do you let people know that you're an addict and that you're in recovery? You know, you're a teacher. You really shouldn't be telling people your stuff. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I? I have nothing to be ashamed of. God has taken that shame from me. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I know there's going to be somebody in this room that's struggling, maybe not with this exact issue, but with something else, and it's going to help them. I know that. God has told me that. The whole way here I prayed, what should I say, God? How should I say it? And God just let me know, don't worry, I got this, because somebody in this room tonight is going to get help because of what you said. So I'm like, all right, are you sure about that? Because, it's a lot to put on me. But honestly, like I said, I have nothing to be ashamed of. I've been clean and sober for 8.5 years, which is good. I have 2 children. I have a 10-year-old boy, and I have a baby, a 6-month-old. He'll be 6 months on Tuesday. So my 10-year-old is the one I wanted to talk about, because I wasn't sober when he was a little one, and I wasn't sober or clean when I was pregnant with him. As a matter of fact, I used the entire time I was pregnant with him, and didn't get clean. I thought, well, if I just have this baby, then I'll stop using, and that didn't happen. I think the turning point for me, one of the most pivotal moments for me, was when he was 18 months old. He was playing in the dog's water dish, and I was getting mad at him, and I was drunk, and I was high, and I kept telling him, stop it, Casey, stop it, stop playing with the dog's water dish, and I slapped him. And I slapped him, I basically beat him, because he went flying across the kitchen and slammed his head on the cabinet door, and then got up and ran over to me for comfort after I had just abused him. And that was the last time I used drugs or alcohol. That was just kind of the wake-up call that I needed. Unfortunately, he's okay, but that's what it took for me. That image of his little innocent face looking back up at me after I had done that was what, whenever I'm struggling with something, or if I'm tempted by something, which happens less and less, but I just remember his little face, and that's what keeps me clean and sober, without a doubt, that little face. And that night, of course, I tried to kill myself, because I thought, well, I'm the worst person in the whole world. I don't even deserve to be alive. I'm a horrible mother, and he's better off without me. That's where the nasty thinking starts to, the enemy, the devil, whatever you want to call it, starts to creep in, because I start thinking, my family is better off without me. The world is a better place without me in it, because I'm a horrible person, and I just shouldn't even be alive. So I actually tried to kill myself 3 times. The third of which, you know how you get medicine in the mail and you get a 90-day supply of medicine? Well, at that time, this was 9 years ago or so, 8.5 years ago, I was taking 3 different medications, and I had gotten all 3 boxes in the, delivered that day of my 3 medications, 90-day supplies of each. I went into the woods with my bright pink sleeping bag, and I swallowed every single pill in all 3 of those boxes and went to sleep. And I have no idea why I'm even standing here talking to you right now, because I woke up in the hospital 6 days later. They're like, we found you in the woods and you were in a coma, and I was like, I should be dead. So it just goes to show that, there's a reason why I'm still standing here. I think part of it goes back to being a little girl, I did have a rough life. I was abused as a child. I had a mother that was very sick and is an addict as well. And I heard this from somebody else in recovery, that they were taken out of their home and put into foster care, just like I was. And the people, it was awful to be taken away from your mom and dad, it's awful to be put into foster care, because it's scary. But the people that were taking care of me in foster care were Christians, and they put that little seed into me when I was a little girl, like Jesus loves you and Jesus made you and you're going to be okay, and later on in life you're going to go through stuff and you're going to need God, and here's what God is. And so I'm grateful that I was in that situation when I was a little girl, because it did carry over to when I was an adult. Even when I was struggling with drugs and alcohol, even when I was partying and doing bad things, I still had that connection with God. I still knew that there was something greater, that Jesus was there and he was going to take care of me. I just lost my train of thought. But, that's pretty much part of my story. I mean, I've been hospitalized 8 times, on 8 separate occasions, for mental illness and drug abuse and overdosing and you name it. I have, I've been through my struggles, so I think that that's really what God put on my heart to tell you this evening, and that, Jesus pulled me out of that situation, got me healed, found me the right friends to hang out with, got me the right support. I did lose custody of my son for a while, but I did get it back, and now I'm married today to a healthy person, and I have a new baby and a house, and my life is great. You look at my life today and it looks like a perfect little Kodak picture. It really does, but there is that stuff that I've been through, and some people know it about me and some people don't, and I don't really care who knows and who doesn't, because like I said, I don't have that shame hanging over me. That shame will keep you sick. It'll keep you using. It'll keep you sticking that needle in your vein. It'll keep you drinking. If you feel like I'm ashamed of myself and I hate myself, that Jesus took that from me. He just took it. He said, when I was like, okay, God, take this crap from me, take it. He's like, I already did. I was already on the cross. And I think that's like where I got a lot of understanding, was like him being crucified on the cross. That's where he took all of our stuff for us. And that's where like I really started to understand what that meant. And that's why I don't have to stand up here and feel weird about telling you about some of my deepest, darkest stuff, So I hope somebody out there knows that, God is out there for you. And, if you're struggling with some sort of addiction or mental illness, or, you just have issues and you feel like it's the end of the road for you, it's not. And it's only the beginning. So that's all I have.
Okay. I almost didn't come tonight. My name is Becky, and I don't know what it was, whether it was, the enemy playing tricks or whatever. I got into this huge battle with my daughter before we left the house, and, I felt like my place was there to be with her and to work things out with her. But I was actually really kind of looking forward to coming tonight and sharing, really nervous at the same time. A lot of you know me, but many of you don't know my story. I'm not a recovering addict or alcoholic. I struggle with something a little different than that. It goes along with that. I was raised in a very, very unhealthy, dysfunctional home by 2 alcoholics, and my whole entire life was unpredictable and full of ups and downs and roller coasters, and not knowing what was going to happen the next day. Or you get home some days and everything's fine, some days it's not. I left home at 18, engaged to a man that was much older than me. He was 31 at the time. I couldn't wait to get out of the house, just to get out of there. I moved to State College to be with him. After we broke up, I went crazy for about 2 or 3 years after that. I turned 21, and I was in this big city that I thought was State College, and nobody to hold me accountable. I didn't want to go back home. I hid everything from my parents. My life was a mess. After that, I got into many unhealthy relationships. I wasn't raised with love. I wasn't raised in a Christian home. My parents made us go to church on Sunday, but it was just, I think it was a babysitting service to them, and so I really wasn't shown, how to love, so I found it, my own way. I did this for a long time. When I finally, let's see, I'm not going to go through all of that, but I finally met someone, got married, had kids. I stayed in state college. I had gone to school for a little bit, but dropped out during that time. I wish I would have stayed, but I couldn't keep my head focused. So I was married, and I had 2 great kids. Unfortunately, I was married to an alcoholic who couldn't stay sober. I stayed for a long time because of the kids. I found God in the middle of all that. Somehow, it was 2004. I just had moved back to State College from going to live away throughout many different separations from my husband at the time. I moved back to State College, needed another job, so I found this ad in the paper for this daycare, and it was Abba's house. So that was 2004. And so that was January. February, I was given tickets to go see this movie, The Passion of the Christ. I'm like, okay, it's free, I'll go see this movie. I wasn't a Christian then. I knew a little bit about God, but didn't really know what it was like to have a relationship with God. So I went to see this movie. In the middle of the movie, it changed my life forever. I instantly gave my life to Christ, and that's how my journey with God started. I was still with this man. I guess along throughout that, I started growing with God, counseling with Dina, and then I got into recovery for myself. They offer that, not just for addicts and alcoholics. There's all kinds of people in recovery. So I got into that. I learned what boundaries were, and I found a sponsor, and I learned how to take care of myself. And eventually, I grew closer to God, and I just, I guess this whole week I was thinking, what am I going to share about? What am I going to say? And sitting in the message this morning, Pastor Mitch was talking about joy, and I'm thinking this whole week, well, what is your story? What can you share? I think the main thing when people ask me, what did you get out of your whole experience with God? My circumstances were a mess throughout my whole entire life. Every relationship I ever got into was so codependent that my happiness and everything about me just was solely, it was dependent on whatever was going on around me. If they were down, I was down. If they were up, I was up. If my kids were happy, I was happy. If they were sick, oh my gosh, I was sick. It was never just about me. And that's what I learned in recovery, how to take care of me. And so Pastor Mitch talked today in church about having joy in spite of your circumstances. And that's pretty much what God in recovery has shown me, to have a relationship with God. And, your world can be a mess around you, but you can learn how to just still have joy. I never knew that. I hit some pretty low parts during my journey, just awful things that I did that I'm not proud of. Today, I'm remarried. I have 2 wonderful kids. I have a great life, and I have this joy, this peace that I never knew that I could have. And that all comes from God, because the world says, I should be in a mental institution, or the world says, I don't know. I look at people around me. I look at people in my own family and see what they're struggling with, because of the absence of joy and peace. And God, it all comes from God. If I didn't have God in my life, I don't know where I'd be. That's pretty much it. I can't really think of anything else to talk about. But if someone were to ask me, what is your story about? That's it. It hit me today, sitting in church. That's it. How, to learn how to have joy. There can be stuff going all, crazy around me. But, tonight I pulled myself up out of I felt awful. I'm like, that's it, I'm not going. How do I get a hold of Sal? I'm not coming, I'm not sharing, I'm not doing this. And something was telling me, just get up and go talk to Hannah and make things right, and you should come. So I'm glad I came, and that's pretty much all I have.